This episode is brought to you by Fortis Mentis Psychiatry, where Black and Brown girls can find individual therapy, mindfulness and meditation coaching, medication management, and case management. To learn more, go to fortismentispsychiatry.com/safe place. Hey girl, welcome back to Safe Place for Brown Girls. I'm your host, Dr. Kathleen Jude Estimé, a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and this is your space to talk about healing, mental health, and growing into the best version of yourself without any shame or judgment. If you're a mom who's ever felt like you were pouring from an empty cup, pushing through exhaustion, and somehow still feeling like it's not enough, this episode is for you. Today, we're joined by Precious Williams. She's a faith-based wellness coach, a counselor, and a mom herself who knows firsthand how it's like to break under the pressure of being everything to everyone. We're talking about what it really means to care for yourself as a mother and why burnout often hides in plain sight, and how to move beyond survival mode into real soul-level restoration. This isn't just about spa days or bubble baths. It's about breaking the generational patterns and reclaiming your own peace and honoring your God-given purpose. Let's get into it. Hi, Precious. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Well, I'm Precious K. Williams. I'm a speaker, generational health speaker, and a wellness coach out of Atlanta, Georgia. Family is from Ghana, West Africa, so I always say that I'm an eclectic mix of my upbringing in Chicago, my schooling at Howard University, and then I've been living in Atlanta, Georgia for the past 17 years. So I'm an eclectic mix, but all in all, I really am a passionate mom, a passionate practitioner of mental health and physical health, and I really want women, namely moms, to be healthier and live more fulfilled lives.
Oh, wow. So tell us about your practice.
So I primarily run a wellness business entitled Moms on a Mission Wellness. That's my brand. Some people know me under Simply Passionate Life, my LLC. But mainly I serve women who serve in their role of caregiver, mom, all the multiple hats that they wear to rewrite their health story, to help them go from where they are today to where God has them to be. So I lost 75 pounds naturally before having children, and then had to do it multiple times after each child. And I soon realized that it is a holistic journey. It's not just about how many grams of protein you eat and how many curls you do, but it's about your mental stability, your overall wellness, your overall sleep, and hydration. Like, there are so many levels, and then your spiritual health. And so what I do is I run a 12-week program for moms where we walk through my lift framework, and then also host a quarterly retreat called the Harmony Retreat, which allows them to kind of step out of the responsibility for a minute and reorganize and really get down to the bottom of where they want to go next.
Wow, that's amazing. Very impressive. So today we're talking about moms and taking care of themselves. So tell us about your story.
Awesome. Well, I am a mom of three. My husband was a single father when we met. And so I have been living in that bonus mom life for the past 14 years. So that was my introduction to motherhood. And I always say there is no hood like motherhood. It is the toughest, most rewarding hood you ever walk through. But you can't do it alone, right? You need your gang. You need the women and the people in your tribe. And so as I grew in motherhood, as I continued to add to our family, I realized that if I kept going the way I was going, I would resent the journey. I would not feel that I was still making core memories for myself along the way. And so at some point, midway through my journey thus far, I really got burned out. About year 7, I was just completely burned out. I was out in appearance. I already done the things. I started my brand. I was serving women in church. I was promoted at my job. I was doing my vlogging. Like literally everything was perfect. However, I wasn't well. And so wanting to run away, wanting to just get away, saved my life, honestly, because it helped me to realize it was a problem, which we're going to talk about. It helped me to start attacking that problem with the help of the Holy Spirit, with the help of my wonderful husband, who was willing to step in, but I had kind of iced him out in the attempts to do what moms do. And so hitting burnout or hitting that ground, I won't call it zero, but that low point was the best thing that could have ever happened, because it not only saved my life, it gave my kids a new mom that's more fun and happy and herself, not a caricature of past moms. And it also created something that I believe has served so many women on their journey, provided a platform for them to be honest about motherhood and still know they love their families.
So, how did you recognize that you were burnt out instead of balancing your whole life?
Yeah. Burnout is one of those things that I define as borrowing from tomorrow's grace to make it through today.
Amen.
Okay. So when you get to the place, where you're like, oh, tomorrow I'll take a nap. Oh, next week I have this spa trip planned. You're borrowing from the grace of what you have planned to make it through today. Then you're in a cycle of potential burnout. Because every day there is space to carve out for your refill, but we don't take it. And sometimes we schedule ourselves so tight that then you realize there is no space. I cannot breathe. And so for me, that's how I felt. I literally had just gotten home from picking up my two beautiful kids at the time. It was a regular Thursday. And we pulled up to the house. I said, y'all go in, wash your hands, get ready for snack. But I felt stuck. I felt like I could not move out of the car. Just the concept of like, oh my gosh, it's Thursday and it's 3:30 and I'm so tired. Like, how am I going to make it through till 9 o'clock? You know? And I was just really in that nexus moment. Like, if I just drive, by the time I get to Tennessee, they won't really even notice I'm gone. By the time they figure out where I am and get to me, I'll have some time to think. I just needed some time. I wanted the world to stop. I wanted to be in the Marvel movie for a minute. But I couldn't do that. And so I realized, by the help of my sister, I was having a panic attack in that moment. And it was just overwhelming. And like I said, it's one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I think if I would have been coasting in autopilot, I would have done that for a lot longer. And though I would have thought I was doing fine, all things considered, I can't complain, God is good, all those things we told, my kids would have lived and noticed, like, she's not really happy to be here. And so really, we'll talk about this, but I believe that balance is a myth. And a lot of times us trying to be balanced is what's making us even more burned out.
So tell us, why do you think balance is a myth?
Yeah. Well, I come from a Christian worldview. And so I believe that the only balanced being in the universe is the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The only being that's able to accomplish all the things, be everywhere, do be everyone's everything is Jesus. But us, we're trying to be the best wife, the best worker, the best mom, be in shape, drink our water, eat our protein, get our steps, sis. You're not going to do everything in perfect balance. And that's why I ascribe to harmony. There are some seasons of your life where the rhythm is, I am an all-star coworker or all-star boss, and I handle my business at home, but I wouldn't call myself an all-star in that area, and that is okay. Where I lack, God picks up the rest, right? That's where the balance comes in. And so once I let go of that and say, hey, I love my family, but I don't like being a mom every day. Oh, I love my house. It's such a blessing, but I don't want to wash another dish. Like, once you give yourself the honesty to be real about where you are, the whole game changes. And you begin to have that freedom. So when I talked about my LIFT framework, that F is for freedom. That freedom mindset, a lot of times burnout comes in when you feel trapped. And sometimes it's very difficult for moms to admit that, because you're like, I asked for this. How could I say I'm trapped? No one is forcing me. I'm not in bondage. And I love my kids. They didn't ask to be here. All of these things you tell yourself. But the way our society runs and the way the expectations are put on us, you can begin to feel trapped. And it takes a second, it takes a coach, it takes a experience or a opportunity to step out of it for a second and be like, okay, if I don't like this feeling, I do have the autonomy to start changing it and
Okay, so
start
what are
walking.
the first steps? What are the steps to changing it?
Right. So really the first step is admitting it.
Okay.
Many a times I see clients and women that attend my events or speaking audiences that I speak at that would not identify as being burned out. And that's okay. You know, there are, especially depending on where you come from spiritually, like, I'm not going to claim that. I'm not burned out. I'm a child of God. Okay, so that's fine. But you haven't slept good in 5 months or 5 years. You're dehydrated. Your brain is foggy. Like, the signs are there. So, though you may not identify as someone who's burned out or someone who has anxiety or whatever, you need to identify that here's my plate and it's running over. This is my plate and this is what's on it and it's way too much for me to bear. And until you recognize that, you'll continue to walk around. You think you're handling it, but everyone can see you you're that waiter in the restaurant where everyone's like, are those plates about to fall? But you're like, oh, I'm fine, I got this. Meanwhile, everyone's looking like, oh my gosh, she's gonna drop it all. And if you just let it go, lay it down for a minute, it's not saying that you're not good enough or you're not capable. Just sit it down. Let's get our bearings. Maybe offload some of that. Maybe take some to the table, first, and then go back and get the rest. And so attacking burnout isn't saying that isn't admitting failure, though that's okay. It's really saying, I can do it all. I can't be it all. And I might not be able to do it all on the same day.
Oh, wow. So, Precious, what are some early warning signs that often go unnoticed?
Yeah, it's very good. Often, there's a very big connection. So I have a health science degree from Howard University and a counseling degree from Georgia State. So a lot of times when you talk about being a coach or being a wellness coach, people think of like multi-level marketing or like rinse repeat courses. Now, there's nothing wrong with those things. I love a good system, right? But this is like degrees, So just want to put that out there for anyone who's like, what is this girl and who is she talking about? There are a lot of warning signs. There's a very big connection between the mind, the spirit, and the body. And so things like inability to sleep, things like waking up and you're still tired, even if you had a full night's rest. Things like constantly forgetting things that you actually care about. Other warning signs are being very snappy. When you start noticing that things that your family, or especially namely your kids, do that typically don't bother you are starting to bother you, you're overstimulated and potentially on the verge of burnout. And those go unnoticed because people unfortunately assume that mothers are supposed to live mediocre lives. That it's you're going to be tired. You're not going to eat. You're going to be snappy. That's just it's just another Wednesday. But no, like that's not how God has intended us to live. And you've got to stop accepting that. And that's a generational trauma, a generational habit. And that's why I'm so adamant about building generational health, because we can change that. Who says moms can't sleep? Who says moms don't have hobbies? Who says, oh, it's all about the kids and what the kids want? No, you're still alive. Like thinking about 40 and 50-year-old women, some of these moms are 25, 30. Like your story is still being written. Even though you get to help your children write their story, it doesn't mean God's not still helping you write your own story. So when you start to feel like those are physical signs start popping up, and then there are the emotional signs where you can be in a room full of people laughing, but you still don't feel happy. You still feel like you're watching your life kind of from the outside looking in the mirror, and you can't name what you are interested in. You don't know your identity is really shaped around your family in a way that you don't feel comfortable with. If you're honest, those are the ones that go unnoticed because people assume, well, that's how my mom was. That's how her mom was. And so that's just how I'm going to have to be.
So you talk about generational beliefs. How do you think generational beliefs contribute to burnout?
Oh yeah, they definitely contribute to them because, like I said, especially for women of color, we're 3 generations, 4 generations away from a slave mentality. And I know some people will go, oh, don't she didn't say that, but we are. And then for me, my family is immigrant. I'm a first generation American, so my parents came to the U.S. with zero, nothing. So working 10, 12, 13-hour days was the way they had to build a life in this country. Do I despise that? Absolutely not. I honor them for that. However, I don't have to do that anymore. And so we get to this place where it's very difficult to create something you've never seen, but it is possible. And I know that when I first began talking about this message, one of the first people to affirm it, I'm not going to get emotional, was my mom. She was just like, I wish I had you when you were my age. When I was your age, I wish I had someone saying what you're saying to me. I wish I had someone telling me I could take a nap. Literally, I have rewritten her ability to use the word lazy. Like, she can't say, I don't know if you've ever been around West African Caribbean women, but if you're sitting down, I'm being lazy right now. And I'm like, no, you're resting. You're God's daughter just as much as your kids are your children. You're God's child. So yes, you can sit down. Yes, you can rest. Yes, if you can afford to hire someone, doesn't make you a bad mom or a lazy or off-putting your responsibilities. Because being a mother does not mean that you're a maid or a cleaner or insert a tutor, right? There are people who are capable of doing those things that will never replace your role as the mom. And so those generational beliefs are some of the hardest things to break. But baby, you'll find as you're trying to, and for all of my millennial, Gen Z, and now Gen Alphas, they might be watching this from in the future, don't stop thinking that you're keeping up the tradition and you're doing yourself or your former generation a service by doing so. They will be the first ones to tell you, girl, I didn't want to do that. Like, if I could have not worked myself to the bone, I would have. If I could have taken a vacation, I would have. If I could have hired a maid, you think I wouldn't have? And there's other cultures that have been doing those things for generations. And so it's our turn, which is the T, take your turn. It's your turn to start using some of those amenities in motherhood. They're not going to stop you from being a great mom. They're just going to make your kids see you as their mom and not their servant.
True, true. So, why is it so important to seek support outside of traditional family or cultural expectations?
It's so important because that's a great question. Anyways, by the way, it's so important because you cannot blame your culture or your family for your happiness or fulfillment. After a certain age, it's no longer my mom's fault that I'm choosing to wear myself thin. It's no longer my dad's fault that he never gave me a bath, right? It becomes my responsibility to live a life that I feel matters to me, to make the example for my kids. I decided I didn't want to be overweight anymore. I didn't want my kids to go to the doctor and have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, asthma, arthritis, all these things on their health history form. So I had to make a difference and change. My dad still to this day says, you still pay that trainer? You know how to do that stuff yourself, right? I do that, but it takes a lot of mental weight off of me to know that when I go to the gym, my trainer already has it set up and I have the means to do that, right? If I would listen to him, I can't blame him. That's all he knows. But it is my job now to make this new story. And now my daughters, it's normal. Having a trainer going to the gym in the morning and coming home and being there for your kids that is their new norm. So it's important because you can't expect them to have the tools to break a chain that they didn't break. They're still bonded by, right? It's our job. And when we break that chain, they get free. Like, I see my mom and dad, they're retired in Ghana now. And my mom will walk, by. She's like, I didn't feel like cooking, so we went to the ocean to eat. Like, she would have never done that in the past. And I'm not going to take complete credit for it. But I do believe that sometimes us being bold enough to break that pattern helps them see, like, you know what? It is okay for them to do this. It's okay for them to have a tutor help with their kids after school. It is okay for them to have a cleaner because it is pretty clean. It's cleaner than her spending 5 hours to clean it. She could be in a speaking engagement and the house could be clean when she gets back. Like, they're seeing now that, wow, like, it's actually okay for her not to earn her validation by how hard and how tired she works.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So, being part of the African diaspora, we understand enabling.
Yeah.
How can women distinguish between enabling and support?
Ooh. That's a good one. You know, all of it really depends on where you're coming from. So I think that when you hire support, people such as therapists, trainers, coaches, life coaches, mentors, there is a level of they are trained and experts in a certain area of supporting you, right? And I do believe that women need to have a better circle of support because that tribe mentality, that village mentality isn't as fermented in our society. You know, people move away from home. People are not growing up in the same neighborhood, staying in that neighborhood, and then retiring in that neighborhood anymore, right? You don't live next to auntie and grandma, all of that. So you have to create and curate your own village, you know, and that's where support comes in. But then also sometimes that's a good thing that we're curating and creating our own support system because sometimes the biological support system or the one you're comfortable with is not support. It is enablement. It is people have done it this way. They keep doing it this way. And we're going to keep doing it this way, whether it's healthy or not. And so just because you have someone around you does not mean they're actually supporting you. It could be that they're enabling your previous beliefs. It could be that they're projecting their views on how you need to do it onto you. Like I'm thankful, an example of someone who can be that could have been enabling, but is supportive for me is my sister. Like we live 5 minutes away from each other. Our kids are zoned for the same school system. We talk multiple times a day. Like we're literally locked in. And for us, we are each other's support system. My parents are in another country, leaving us to raise their grandkids by ourselves, right? And so it is a blessing for us to be able to support each other and to help each other live our version of motherhood. But me and her are very different. You know, I'm still pretty firm with my kids, right? But I'm also the fun mom where they can play and jump and run and all of that. And she's kind of relaxed with her kids. Like she doesn't really she never really has a raised voice moment and she doesn't talk very firm, but she's also not like jump and run in my house mom either. She does things differently than I do. And instead of being like, girl, you know, you need to let them do this, or mommy and daddy would have never let them, we don't do that. We don't enable each other to continue like negative patterns. We support each other while also letting each other find their own way, you know? And so I think that support and enablement can be something that will intertwine if you're not careful, but having good boundaries allows you to set, or having firm boundaries, not good, because there's really no such thing as a bad boundary, but having firm boundaries is so important, and making sure that you do utilize people who are expert in certain areas. So to close out, like with my sister, I can't expect her to be my therapist. And even though I'm a wellness coach, she still needs to have her nutritionist and her therapist. I am not that person for her. And so just keeping those boundaries in place helps you to have a firmer and a more reliable support system.
That's amazing, Precious. So thank you so much for being with us. So how can we get in contact with you?
Awesome. Well, I am Precious K. Williams on all platforms at Precious K. Williams, and my website is preciouskwilliams.com. A lot of what I talk about today, I speak on online, and going into the beauty of moving our bodies, beauty of taking care of not just having our self-care days, but having a mom care routine, keeping our families, our support systems engaged in that routine, where it's not just another thing you're responsible for, which is self-care, but where you have people in place in your support system that are supportive of you getting the care you need. That's mom care. And by doing so, and because I think that's so important, that's why I host my quarterly retreat, the Harmony Retreat. So you can find us online regarding the Harmony Retreat and get your opportunity, your experience to get away from the mayhem and really unwind and release that weight that you're carrying. And then also our coaching program that helps women begin to chip away at some of those tools, chip away at some of those warning signs and really actively rewrite what motherhood looks like for you. Because you can be fulfilled and committed. You don't have to pick one. You know, you can be committed to your family and still be fulfilled. You can be committed to your spouse and still be snatched. Okay? Listen, okay? Go to the gym every day. Okay? Yes. And still be a very committed wife, mom, daughter, insert role.
Absolutely. Here. So thank you so much, Precious. You have to come back sometime.
I can't wait to come back. Can't wait to come back. You are amazing. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening today. If you're that mom who's been surviving but not thriving, know this: you deserve rest, you deserve support, and you deserve to be whole, not just holding it together. Precious just reminded us that mom care isn't self-indulgence, it's sacred, because a nourished mother nourishes generations. Whether your first step is taking a nap, setting a boundary, or sitting quietly in prayer, do something this week that honors your wellness. This episode was brought to you by Fortis Mentis Psychiatry, where Black and Brown girls can find individual therapy, mindfulness and meditation coaching, medication management, and case management. To learn more, go to fortismentispsychiatry.com/safe place.